Hey, Facebook with Glenn and Kevin. We're here on Tuesday nights, like we try to do every week, just to have a short discussion, 10 or 15 minutes about the episode that dropped on Facebook Monday evening, but on the podcast formats on Tuesday morning. So, Kevin, man, how'd your day go today?
Man, it was pretty busy at work today, so lots of meetings. Good meetings though. Had some really great meetings at work, and took about I took 4 kids to youth group tonight, and it's the first time I've picked all those kids up. So I was like, I got them completely out of order of how I should have picked them up. So it took an hour and a half to get to church and another 25 minutes to get back. So it was brutal.
Yeah, and, living in Spring Hill makes it worse with that
I
2 lane
know, man.
road.
It's terrible. It's like if you've never been to Spring Hill, Tennessee, what kind of caused it to blow up other than just Nashville headed south was the Saturn plant. So they built Saturn cars here for a while, and it just blew up when the plant moved in, and it just is not prepared for it in the roads. It's literally when you're going somewhere in Spring Hill, there's one main drag through the middle of town, and other than that, you're driving through neighborhoods. So literally, if you have to get from your house to Walmart, you have to go through three. I have to go through like 4 neighborhoods. So, oh, it's brutal.
Mm. Yeah, it's kind of rush hour Spring Hill is kind of just as bad as rush hour Nashville.
Yeah, right. Not as much distance covered, but
Yeah,
definitely is slow for sure. So, yep. So that's how I spent my last 2 hours, which is why we're running late tonight on the live. But
yeah.
it's
Well,
cool though
actually,
to test out some different time slots and see
yeah, for
what
sure.
it's
Yeah,
like. So,
yeah. And you guys that are listening, if you have any suggestions on what's the best time for you, yeah, we'd love to hear that too, because we're just kind of guessing, playing by ear. And the thing is nowadays people eat dinner at different times and get off work at different times, and um, soccer games and baseball games. So we chose 6:30 originally, 6:30, 6:45, and try to catch everybody either right before dinner or right after dinner. Like, I just got done eating dinner though, so it was a late night for us too. It's like we try to
oops,
do every week,
sorry.
just to have a short discussion.
Turn that off. Sorry about that.
Right after dinner.
Whoa! What'd you have for dinner tonight?
So it was a late night. Man, I grilled hamburgers on the
Oh yeah.
Blackstone, dude. Yeah,
Oh, cool. Awesome.
yeah. I actually did some man work today
What'd you do at home or?
at home. Yeah, I
Yeah.
cut down some trees. I got this
Ooh,
new electric chainsaw.
your latest toy.
Yeah, so I cut down a bunch of trees today. Let's just say
You'll.
this: well, I've got enough firewood to last fire pit season for about 3 years now.
It's funny. You'll use that electric saw about 5 times probably, and then you'll be like, "Oh, I'm not going to cut down trees. Too
It,
much work."
it is a lot of work, man. Like, and it's even an electric one, so it's not as heavy as a gas
Right.
one. But
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, my back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's hard work. People that do that for a living, they earn their money. No joke. So
yeah, for
cool.
sure. Yeah,
Well, what did you think about the episode we recorded last night with Tammy from Scarlet Hope?
man, I just love Tammy. She just has such a passion, and it's in her voice, it's in her body language, it's in her
Hmm.
testimony. Like, there's no doubt when you have a face to face with Tammy, she's legit and
Yeah, yeah.
all in, 100% all in. Oh, Kevin froze. Hey, so while we're waiting on Kevin, if, which seems to be a weekly thing here, if you guys are watching, give us a shout out real quick. We can see your comments, and we'd love to know who's watching. We'd love to know if you listen to the episode and if you have any comments on what Tammy talked about last night. So Kevin's back with us now. He's a little blurry. He's buffering. So what was your big takeaway from last night, man?
I talked with Julie, my wife, about it quite a bit today because I think there's this. Like I say this all the time. Like I've even said this specifically about Scarlet Hope that if Jesus was here, that's the places he would be. And then, like as we're talking about it and Tammy says it, I'm sitting here thinking, like, in my heart, in my emotions, I'm like, want to believe that, but in my mind, I'm like, would he really be there? Like, would he really be inside the place? Which, it's a little different because it's a strip club and man, but I definitely think he would be, where broken people are. But I thought about that a lot today, just as a tension that kind of came up from last night. And the other tension, and I'm just being super honest and vulnerable because I'm usually the guy that's pushing the other side, of the envelope. But I was also thinking about, and you can probably help me with this, like some number of those ladies, yes, are victims. Some number of the ladies, yes, have been through terrible, terrible life situations that I can never imagine going through. And it kind of lands them there. But there's probably some number of those girls that they're choosing that because they make money, like
Yeah.
it's their choice. And so I wrestled really with that a lot last night as we were discussing, choice versus victimization. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think you're 100% right. It is for some all about the money, but I think you have to still go back and look at why is it all about the money? Again, is it something where they are in a relationship where their partner doesn't, sits on the couch and plays PlayStation all day and they've got, 6 kids running around and I've got to make money. I, I didn't get into college because, fill in the blank. I couldn't pay for it. I dropped out of high school early. So even the ones that pursue that for profit, it still makes me wonder, okay, what in their past led them to be that desperate for money that
Mm-hmm.
that became a priority to them, versus doing something different. Like what choices were made early on. But because again, man, I guess there are some people out there that are addicted to sexual things and doing sexual things, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine any woman saying, "I want to go dance naked in front of a bunch of dudes I don't know." I mean that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would definitely be a much smaller number of people that would, but I do think there's probably also women that are they're their own gods, and so they find some kind of pleasure in kind of manipulating or turning on guys or other people, But I think the thing that am pretty certain of is that Jesus would always give people the benefit of the doubt. Well,
Yeah.
but then I'll back up and have to say he also could see into their heart. He could see their motives.
Mhm.
So he has much more probably insight you obviously into why and make the choices they make. But I think in general, yeah, if we're going to err on any side, we err on the side of grace, and
Yeah.
be very concerned about those women that are making those choices, and at least be interested enough to find out what their past has been like,
Yeah.
and
That's what I was going to
and
say.
give
I
them the
think at a
benefit of the doubt.
minimum, yeah, I think at a minimum, you have to hear their story. Um, to me, that just explains a whole lot. When I investigate certain cases, um, even the perpetrator, knowing their history, knowing where they came from, especially in like sexual abuse cases, was the perpetrator themselves abused as a child? Like, what happened in your life to direct you down this path? And it's not that it's not
Mhm.
even then that they were victims, because you still made a choice or a series of choices, that got you from point A to point B. And, you're, eternally, you're the one responsible for those choices that you made. But still, it just helps to understand, why people get into that industry, just knowing their story and their background.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And obviously, Tammy and what she does means a ton to me, and I'm just so impressed. And it's just an honor to be able to know her and be friends with that ministry. So
Mhm.
Yeah. So all that stuff I was talking about is just tension that I'm facing. It's definitely not
Mhm.
anything negative toward what they're doing. And I was just thinking, some of you guys haven't watched the episode. So we actually interviewed Tammy Maytan from an organization called Scarlet Hope Nashville, who goes in Thursday nights for a few hours to Nashville with two of them, a team of two, and they're just there to just be friends and be kind of supporters and advocates for the dancers. So that's who we interviewed, and it's just, if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, you definitely need to download it on one of the podcast platforms and listen to it, because it'll wreck you. I think it wrecked me. I remember the first time I really had a good conversation with Tammy. So yeah, so that's
Kevin,
what we're talking about.
do you think, I want to go back and explore something that you said? You said there was tension, whether or not Jesus would actually be in the strip club or not. Eh, What are your thoughts on this? You know, it seems to me that throughout scripture, when Jesus encountered people, it was not because he chose a specific place to go. I'm going to go over here to the, to the drinking hole, or,
Right.
the strip club. He was just available. And it seems
Right.
to me like throughout most of scripture, people found him. Like he didn't go to them, they came to him. And I
Yeah,
think the
that's good.
difference between he and, the religious people of the day, the Pharisees, was what you just said a few minutes ago. He saw their heart. He met them where they were at.
Hmm.
And he was just available to them, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. I know, we know for sure he intentionally had a party with tax collectors and was accused of being a drunk.
Hmm.
Um, so he did, but again, yeah, you're right. He actually, that came out of the context of him, you know, um, like preaching the gospel to a tax collector, and he just followed him into his people group. So in the disciple making movement, that's what we really focus on, is like, finding people of peace, persons of peace, which is actually how he instructed his disciples to go into cities, is go into the city, find a person of peace, meaning a person who will actually engage with you and converse with you, and stay in their house, and don't leave until, as long as they welcome you, stay in their house and engage with them. And then that person of peace would introduce, the disciples to their friends, who eventually became churches. So yeah, I think what you just said is huge insight. People found Jesus, and people found Jesus because of what Jesus offered the crowds, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's really, really good. So maybe that's a non-issue. But he definitely pursued, I would say most likely he probably didn't go to the well at Samaria because he was really thirsty. Maybe he was
Right.
thirsty, but I think he went there even more so to engage this woman at the well, who was
Yeah.
broken to
Yeah.
pieces.
Yeah. Totally. I
And
mean, I
he
think,
did it.
yeah. I mean, if you're walking down the street, I think it's being in tune with the Holy Spirit. So, you're at work and you're in tune to know that, okay, man, this my coworker over here is, I don't know what it is, but they're hurting,
Mhm.
and I feel like, I need to just go love on them and talk to them. I think, being in tune with that also. So
Mhm.
kind of, what is it? The Great Commission,
Mm.
go and make disciples. And I've heard, I'm by no means a scholar, but I've heard that the kind of the original translation is as you go.
Mhm.
Like as you're going, as you're
Right, that's
going
correct.
about your daily whatever,
Mhm.
preach the gospel and make disciples.
Yeah.
So
But one thing we do know is that Jesus wasn't afraid to be seen in, like, really controversial places or in controversial situations. Like we talked about the woman at the well. That was, against custom for him to be alone with a woman, period. And then a Samaritan woman, which was kind of the enemies of, David's line of Jews. They were a form of Jews themselves, but they were enemies against the type of Jew Jesus was. So, and he was more than willing to be seen alone with her, and he was more than willing to, you know, like I said, be in the presence of tax collector party, which is a, big
mhm.
no no. And obviously he was accused of drinking too much wine, and so Yeah, I don't think he was afraid of what people thought about him. He
Yeah.
wasn't afraid to be in controversial places with controversial people.
Yeah,
So
and we kind of touched on that. You might have been, having internet trouble. I don't know if you were involved in this part of the conversation, but I
well,
know
don't
Tammy.
forget I edited it, so I saw
True.
every second many times over. So
I know Tammy and I talked about, you know, the church's response to ministries like hers, and it's not that necessarily the church doesn't love these women. It's just that the perception it gives off if we send a team of people into a place like that. So, I mean, it's easy to see where um, the church takes that stance of,
Mhm.
oh, we can't be seen there because it looks like this, or we can't protect you from all the you're not going to be clean anymore if you go in there. So
Mhm.
um so yeah, and like you said, Jesus just didn't care
Mhm.
what other people said. And I think that's a that's something in our society that's difficult to overcome,
Mhm.
on an individual level and a group level.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. It's really hard. I just, I kind of put myself in the shoes. I'm glad I was a pastor in my previous life, and I'm glad I'm not anymore because those are all things that tempt you to not really pursue your passions, because of, you have, I don't know, some reputation that you have to keep up,
Mhm.
and it's a real danger. Like, how a lot of pastors have made really bad choices and been basically creamed by, public opinion, but some of them have just done what they felt like was right and creamed by public opinion, so it's a real temptation for pastors and ministry people, and obviously the downline from that is um the church members that are considered to be, good church members. So yeah, it's tough. I can feel the tension that the disciples must have felt when they were hanging out with Jesus in those places, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that maybe that's why he didn't choose like the religious leaders. Maybe he chose the most unlikely, really literally losers of Judaism to be his disciples, so they didn't have that barrier to overcome. Maybe
Yeah.
that's part of the reason. That's certainly not the whole reason, but maybe it's part of it. So,
Yeah. Makes total sense. Hey, take a break in the conversation here just to let everybody know that you guys can learn more about the Scarlet Hope organization by visiting the website that's down here on the screen, nashville.scarlethope.org. You can go there and learn more about what they do, what some of their needs are, how you can volunteer, how you can give. Um, Kevin, I haven't looked this week, but do you remember? Are there any stories? Do they have any stories about any of the
hmm,
girls on there? I can't
I
remember.
can't I can't remember. There's some good videos on there.
Yeah.
There's definitely some video stuff on there that's really good. Yeah. So it's yeah, there's mentioned this last night, but they have chapters in seven or eight different cities, big major cities around the country.
Hmm.
So, if you're listening to us from another place, there might be someone close to you. And there's other organizations that do this as well, but I think the world of the way that Scarlet Hope does it, and kind of like Scott Hord, he does what he stands in front of Planned Parenthood, but he's firm, but he offers grace and hope to those ladies, and
Yeah.
that's kind of how Scarlet Hope is. They just have a really great. They've done it for a long time and have a great technique behind what they
Yeah.
do.
Well, I'll tell you what I love probably the most about Scarlet Hope is they're not just going into the strip clubs every whatever night it is they go and having food and conversation, with their new resource center that they call Scarlets, I believe is what Tammy said.
Hmm. Right.
They're taking that next step, in discipling these women because a lot of times it's easy just to
Hmm.
go and you keeping using this as an example. It's easy to go to the strip club, hand out food, say a few prayers and bounce, and then check check that off my list. Okay, I'm a good Christian. I did some mission work, this week or this month, and it just goes again to show the heart and the passion to continue that discipleship and helping these women take next step after next step after next step. Really going beyond just being at the strip club.
Yeah, I know, man. They, I can step really late at night, and that's just kind of my personality. I don't get a whole lot of sleep, and but I do get a lot of stuff done. But I will Thursday nights, almost every time before I go to bed, the last thing I think about is the fact that there's a couple of girls from Scarlet Hope in a strip club, and I kind of have a habit. It's usually 12:30, 1 o'clock. I'll send them a text message and just say, thinking about you guys and praying for you. But just the realization of what these families, not just Scarlet Hope, but these families that are passionate about things, what they're giving away of themselves, it blows your mind, And I think we all long to give away our life to something bigger than us. But yeah, it's actually people that do that, and including you and including me. So I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to lift them up. I think all of us, especially Christ followers, particularly have a heart to give their lives away to other people. So
yeah,
but it's just so inspiring. I know I say that every time we talk, but it's super inspiring. Just it's amazing.
I mean, that's the purpose of the podcast. Because as believers, like you said, we all have that desire, and the question is, are we going to say yes? We talk about that a lot. Saying yes and going all in. And so I think that's the tension within each and every one of us on the heart level. We all, like you said, we all want to go all in on something. It's just, do we have the courage and, and the faith to do it? And hopefully that's what we're accomplishing with this podcast is giving people some encouragement to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, I may have said this on the podcast, but I say it a lot, that there's only, I don't know, it's not original to me, but there's only one story. There's one story, it's the story of creation and broken humanity and fallenness and redemption. And, the fact that through one man, we were all made sinful, but through one man, we were also made righteous, So it's the one man story. And that's what we're talking about, is like deep inside our DNA, and the part of us that was created in the image of God. We all want to die for other people. Our flesh doesn't want to, and we obviously don't want to if we don't have purpose behind it and we're not really living a life of Christ, but we want to be like our hero. There's something deep down inside of us that just longs to be more like Jesus. And that's why I think Paul, when he talks about marriage, in Ephesians 6, that's what he talks about, is like, he says, a woman submit, don't get caught up on the word. We're not going to get into that conversation, but a woman submits to her husband, but she only submits to her husband as much as he's willing to serve her, like Christ served the church and Christ died for the church. So like those two things have to go hand in hand with each other. As I love my wife to the point where I'm willing to sacrifice for her, she's more than happy to submit to me. It mean let me be a bully, or it means to trust my spiritual leadership. But if one of those two are not working, then neither one of them works. It requires both to work well. And Paul literally, he says, it's a great mystery, but what I'm talking about is Christ and the church. So, man, that's like, it fires me up to think about that. Like, I'm only telling you how marriage works because I want you to understand how your relationship with Jesus works. And so, yeah, we want to be like our daddy, right? We all long to be a chip off the old block, we even have that as kind of a cliche in our language, but we all long to be like Jesus, and Jesus, his ultimate glory is that he gave his life away for the sake of humanity. Yeah. I don't know, man. That's powerful stuff.
What's crazy is, you're talking about fear, and particularly, the fear of death. And I can look back and go, man, I get some anxiety or some fear when, there's a tornado headed this way, or, I'm high up on a cliff hiking and walking behind a waterfall that could just completely wash me down the side of the mountain. like I have that anxiety and that fear, but when I'm doing a rescue and kitted up with, you know, my bulletproof vest and my guns, and like the fear of death in that situation never crosses my mind.
Mm.
I mean, obviously, you know, there's safety. Hey, we want to keep the team safe. We want to keep everybody safe, but the fear is not there. The anxiety and the fear is not there. So it's
Mm.
kind of cool. I never
Yeah, I
really
wonder.
thought of that till you said something.
Yeah. I guess that ties back in. I started to say I wonder why, but I guess it ties back into what we were just talking about. Like
Hmm.
you're actually risking your life not for the sake of another the life of other people, you know? I don't know. It's too big for me to like wrap my arms around. It is seriously, it's like I don't understand that and I can't understand that. But I experience it, you know?
Yeah.
I definitely experience it, but man, that's good stuff. Woo, that's good stuff. So yeah, that just makes us more and more thankful. You know, I mean, even the life of Christ is pointed to, you know, in the sacrificial lamb and the Passover lamb. You know,
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, they were covered by the. We don't want to get too much into deep Bible stories because maybe people listening may not know the stories, but yeah, lamb had to be the most perfect lamb that they had to be sacrificed, so that lives would be saved. Man, that is unbelievable when you think of all that stuff. It's so big, so big.
Mm,
But yeah, that's the only thing really that makes really life worth living, to be honest.
yeah, absolutely. You know, Tammy and I talked about last night about, you know, legacy. Like to me, legacy is so important, especially, you know, having children of my own. You know, the legacy I leave behind to me is more important than anything in the present.
Hmm.
You know, and I guess the two go together because what I do in the present dictates what my legacy is. But you know, I'm focused on what am I leaving my children with that's going to last them, you know, well after I'm gone. You
Hmm.
know, so
Yep, that's awesome. Well, cool, man. I'm excited about next Monday night. I got one of my really good friends, Jim Bryson. The cool story. Jim was one of the founding members of Mercy Me. He toured all over the world and met everybody that you can imagine, both Christian and non-Christian, really. Um, for 18 years, he was on the road with Mercy Me, and he was a keyboard player. So that beginning lick of the song "I Can Only Imagine" is Jim, and that's the most recognized like couple of bars of music ever in the history of Christian music, except maybe Amazing Grace, you know? So, but definitely in the modern world, it's by far. So I always am just blown away. He left the road, retired. We ended up living in the same city randomly, and he was needing a job, although, you know, he's still living off of a lot of his music, but he, you know, men just need jobs. You know, we don't function well unless we have purpose. So I was opening this department in this business that I ran, which we'll probably talk more about on next Monday night, but and ended up hiring him. So it's weird to have like this worldwide, you know, guy that had been on the road for 18 years and met everybody in the world and knew so many people by name that I respected. Um, and then all of a sudden he's working for me on my staff. So painting furniture of all things. But man, he became my best buddy. Literally, we became so close, and we walked through some hard times together on both sides. Me walking with him and him with me. He walked through my business closed down, which was one of the most difficult times of my life, and we really bonded really closely together. But anyway, he's just listening to him tell stories of how that song "I Can Only Imagine" came into being, because it's across. You know, it was in the top 5 secular charts. It was on the top of the Christian charts for months and months. So, hearing stories behind how that song just kind of developed a life of its own it'll be some fun stories to
mhm,
listen to. So, but then also, you know, everybody thinks Mercy Me, or you know, think of some big touring band. You think that it's all, you know, nice smelling roses, but that some of their stories are just brutal, you know, of what they had to
yeah,
do in time while they were waiting, you know, to kind of hit it big. So it'll be a fun talk. Jim is hilarious and engaging. So if you haven't tuned in on a Monday night live, We'll probably be around 7:30. Tune in on Facebook, share it, like it, and then we'll drop the actual edited episode Tuesday morning.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, guys, thanks for joining Kevin and I tonight as we recapped this week's episode with Tammy and Scarlet Hope. Make sure you go down and check out their website, see how you can get involved in that ministry. And we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you Monday.